The winter came early, and it did not come alone.
Snow covered the city, but it could not hide what was coming. In Veliky Novgorod, silence was never empty.
The wind carried no voices, only warnings no one could understand.
The bell still rang, but fewer people listened each day.
They gathered in the cold, pretending nothing had changed.
The road beyond the gates no longer led to safety.
Men on the wall saw them first, shadows moving through white.
The priests prayed louder, as if God had begun to drift away.
One morning, the bell stopped answering the hands that pulled it. And with that silence, something in the city broke.
They came without banners, without mercy, without reason.
The doors closed, but fear had already entered.
And the prayers began to sound like begging.
The first blood did not spill in battle. It fell in silence. It spread slowly, as if the snow refused to accept it. Inside their homes, people held each other like the world was ending.
They were lined in the cold, not as soldiers, but as answers.
The steps of the church became a path of red. The river did not move, but it carried the dead anyway. The tower stood empty, as if it had lost its voice. They took what they wanted and left nothing behind.
Even the sacred walls could not protect the living.
The snow began to change, not in color, but in meaning. He looked down and could not recognize what he stood on.
There was no time to mourn, only time to survive. Fire rose against the cold, but it brought no warmth.
The prayers broke before they reached the sky.
And the snow was no longer white.
They moved forward, not toward victory, but toward forgetting. The ground gave way beneath those who could no longer stand. The dead were dragged, as if they still belonged somewhere. Blood marked the air before it ever touched the ground. Some screams froze before they could be heard. The shields broke, but the silence did not. Eyes closed, not in peace, but in surrender. The snow collapsed, under the weight of what it carried.
He walked among them, counting souls no one would remember.
The sacred images watched, but did not intervene. One man hesitated, and in that moment, became human again. But the others never stopped. Fire and snow met, and neither could cleanse the other.
The river filled until it could no longer pretend to flow. For a moment, everything stood still. The wind erased their steps, but not their actions. He crawled forward, not knowing why he still could. And somewhere, a bell rang that no longer existed.
The snow turned red and stayed that way.
And the world chose to look away. He walked through what remained and found nothing familiar. The city stood, but it no longer lived.
The church was open, but empty of answers.
The sacred faces were cracked and silent. He spoke the prayers, but they no longer belonged to him. There was no reply.
They buried the dead without names, without time.
The snow covered them, as if hiding a secret.
The wind returned, but it carried no mercy. He let go of his weapon, and it did not matter. For the first time, he knelt, not as a soldier.
He looked upward, but found nothing looking back. The tears froze before they could fall. And still, he heard the bell.
The snow began again, as if nothing had happened. It covered the red, but not what it meant.
The city stood empty, waiting for no one. His footsteps echoed in a place that no longer remembered him. He walked away, but the silence followed. And still, he turned back. The city remained, frozen in what it had become. From above, it looked peaceful again. But beneath the snow, everything was still red.